Welcome to the June 17, 2016 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web-exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on the Denver Post's most recent round of buyouts and layoffs that may reduce the newsroom to 100. Patty Calhoun from Westword, you've been following this closely. Michael Roberts at Westword did a great piece about the most recent controversy from the Denver Post, the letter out to its subscribers. What do you make of the most recent round of issues we've heard?
Well, it's strange what the Post business plan is. You can't quite tell. Obviously, with this next round of layoffs, which will take a newsroom that had been 330 10 years ago down to just over 100, they want to cut costs as much as they can. By all accounts, including Dean Singleton, they are making money. They're just not making enough money for the current owner. But they don't seem to actually want to have people read the paper. I mean, they did redesign the website. It's a little better than it was. But if you are a home subscriber, you're being bludgeoned daily with these crazy, strange letters about what it's going to cost to subscribe, 60% increases in subscription, and now, we talked a little bit about it last week and again this week, the opt-out issue, which is if you don't want to get the fabulous Father's Day edition, you have to call them on the phone to opt out, otherwise your subscription is automatically reduced by $3 worth. They just don't seem to be consumer-friendly.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. We talked for it seems a long time, even since the fall of the Rocky, about the value that having a daily newspaper has to just what we talk about, politics and everything else. When we see the major daily in Denver newsroom get reduced down to 100 people, we're going to start to see even more effects in our civil discourse, our city hall, state legislature, aren't we?
Terrible effects, because one of the ways you keep government honest is through the disinfectant light of good journalism. And the Post has gone from something that was a regional powerhouse, stretching from South Dakota to Utah and every place in between, and a really excellent paper, and now it's downgraded itself to really the size of a mid-sized city. As Ed was saying, it's got fewer staff than the Colorado Springs Gazette did when he started working there. Less gets noticed in the legislature. It makes it more important for the alternative sources, the web-based things that might follow the Denver City Council or the state legislature. And actually, the Colorado Statesman, I think, has been beefing up, and partly, but certainly not completely filling that gap. Newspapers are not only a business, they're also a civic responsibility. They're a special business, different from just running a restaurant where maybe the bottom line might be all that matters to you. And I think their national corporate ownership is being civically irresponsible when they have a paper that's already profitable and continuing to do such draconian cuts to reporting.
Penn Tate, attorney at QTech Rock, also a longtime state lawmaker. As David alluded to, the paper's making money. For everyone's looking at the bottom line, it's not like it's just hemorrhaging, but yet it's still making cuts, both as a civic statesman like you are, but also as a former lawmaker. You can probably see, I guess, some people seeing this as an advantage, like David mentioned, not as many lights shining in all the different places.
And the disturbing thing about this, and I don't know the inner workings of newspapers and won't pretend to, but the press is a different institution. I mean, that's why has the weight it carries in terms of various constitutional guarantees and protections. People, for all of their complaints, including the complaints of Donald Trump, people rely on the press to expose certain things and bring information to light that everyday folks, we just don't have the time to go out and learn and glean for ourselves. So when the press's role is diminished and reduced, that is disturbing, particularly when it diminishes its role on its own. And that's really troubling. When I look at the Post and in general, the field, I visited the legislature a couple times this year. No one sits at the press tables anymore in either the chamber of the House or the Senate. No one's there. So no one's reporting, no one's covering it. And then the Post behavior is just odd. Patty talked about customer service. I think they're customer hostile. I got this weird letter last week telling me about opting out, opting in, and all of the things I've got to do and how much it's going to cost me. Then on the flip side, they have the audacity to tell me that if I disagree, I have to agree to binding arbitration. Arbitration's for an employment agreement. It's not for a subscription to the newspaper. Then on top of that, I don't get my paper on Sunday, which really annoys me. Then on top of that, I get a bill on Tuesday. I don't understand these folks, but if they're trying to reduce staff to make money, their efforts are counterintuitive because they're going to drive away so many customers, they'll just need to shut their doors. And maybe that's what they want to do after all.
You certainly got the Denver Post trifecta there. Ed Seelever joins us. Now, you have some a unique experience here because you worked at the Colorado Springs Gazette, at the Rocky Mountain News. You now work for the Denver Business Journal. You're firmly ensconced. You're one of the people that is still at the Capitol reporting, but far less colleagues there. What's your feel of the situation?
Well, let me address, first of all, the situation about the Capitol. One of the reasons that you rarely see people at the tables anymore is that we're all, except for the Post and the Associated Press, one-man bands there. And so a lot of times I'm sitting in my office downstairs where we all have speaker systems where we can listen to either the House or the Senate, and I've got one ear on that, and I've got my computer up, so I'm listening to the other chamber at the same time. So it's not that people aren't covering it. It's that you have to do different things to cover two things at once, sometimes 2-3 committee hearings at once, because there's such a lower presence there. That said, I mean, it's hard to say what happens next. I mean, it is nuts. You know, as Dave referenced, when I joined the Colorado Springs Gazette in late 2000, we had 125 people in the newsroom. So the fact that the Post is going to be smaller than that is pretty astounding. I think the issue continues to be for journalism that people have to figure out new ways to make revenue. And I mean, the classified ads that were our bread and butter, that were the main way the papers made money, are gone. They're not coming back at this point. They're free and online. I mean, you have to offer people coverage that they have to pay for. This is something we've experimented with at the Denver Business Journal. Is we put 2 stories a day that we write online, as well as our entire print edition, behind a paywall to get more subscribers, something that's actually worked very well for us. I'd love to see the Post do something like that too. I'd love to see them make people pay for their news, because a lot of people are going online, don't have the home subscription. And people have to learn this as well, that if you actually want people out in the field reporting on things, you've got to pay for it. Otherwise, you can just read the press releases that various congressmen and left and right constituencies might send to your mailbox. And I think we've lost, this is my stump speech, but we've lost an entire generation of readers because we've told them you can get news for free. And you know, they value the people who collect news in the same way they value news. It's free. We've got to do something as an industry to make people want to pay for this again. Because lastly, I think what you're going to see is the Post covers less things now. It's not just going to be the Post that's covering less things. You're going to see less things on your TV stations. You're really going to hear less things on the radio, because people don't realize that the main daily newspaper in a town supplies blogs, TV, radio. People just rip and read these stories all the time. And maybe that's going to wake people up when they say, I can't find this news anywhere. Yeah, that's what happens. You got to pay for it, and the Post has got to figure out a better way to do business than just cutting and cutting and cutting its way to bigger profits.
Well said. That's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out Postgame this week. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Guzzuti. Thanks for watching.